to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into pay dirt and a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about training camp recap, day number 6 of training camp. Today, we have a special guest, Marcus, a.k.a. Culture Shock. How's it going, bud?
Hey, man, what's going on? Everything's good over here.
That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, I wish I could say the same thing for the Indianapolis Colts right now. I guess let's kind of just get the bad apples out of the way now while we can. So, I was going into today, like I woke up this morning and I went into work and I said, okay, so I knew Nelson had a foot injury, but I was hoping just for a second, I was thinking, oh, he just got his foot stepped on. It's not a big deal. Might miss a couple days, and then he'll be back. He'll be fine. But worst case scenario for regards to that, gonna have this has the same type of injury as Carson Wentz, if you can believe that or not, and apparently same timetable in regards to when he could potentially come back. Again, that very broad 5 to 12 weeks sort of thing, but again, Colts still optimistic that both of these guys will be back on the front end of that. Apparently, Wentz was told Coach Reich that he had very successful surgery and some of the pain's already been alleviated. So that's a great thing to hear. They said that's best case scenario. I mean, dude, what is up with all these injuries, man? I mean, can we catch a break?
I mean, a lot of Colts fans are going to bring up the Colts being cursed again with all these injuries popping up. But like I said on Twitter, it has something to probably do with that turf that they're playing on for training camp. I think that turf is playing a big role into these key injuries to our star players. Carson Wentz, Quentin Nelson, for example. I mean, no one knew he was born with a foot injury until now. And then it just so magically happens after Carson Wentz's injury. So I think it has something to do with that turf that inflicted these wounds. And I also said that it's good that they're getting this surgery removed out from the bones from their foot now than in the middle of the season when we really need them. Yeah. So when you look at the schedule, it's like they're going to be probably missing games that we're probably not going to win anyway. So I'm not really sad about them, missing these games. But you're also getting to see good talent in Jacob Eason. The potential he has is very high. He's a gunslinger, big arm. And most Colts fans last year wanted Jacob Eason to start. Even before the Carson Wentz rumors came out, they were wishing Jacob Eason would fill in the role because Phillip Rivers was retiring. And now, this, unfortunately we're saying this, but, the wish is granted. This is what you wanted. You wanted Jacob Eason to be the starting quarterback, and now he's the starting quarterback. But for Quentin Nelson's sake, it's just unfortunate. Like I said, Coach Frank Wright said it was an anomaly on Pat McAfee's show earlier. So, I mean, like I said, it's a good timetable that both of them will be coming back around the same time. But knowing Carson Wentz and his dedication to the team and wanting to play, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back earlier than expected. But like I said, if Jacob Eason's out there putting on the show, I think Carson Wentz will definitely take the step back. For Quentin Nelson's sake, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to fill in that role. But Chris Reed, he's got high praise. A lot of fans are looking forward to seeing him produce as well. So I think we're in a comfortable spot. Like I said, we're not supposed to be going undefeated in the beginning of the year anyway because it's very tough. But we're gonna put up a fight for sure. I know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of weird just looking at the timetables because hearing them say, well, they may not miss a game at all. It just depends on how well they feel once September comes around, or they may miss 3 to 4 games. It just ultimately depends. I mean, and the only thing that sucks for the Wentz part of things is that Nelson, when he comes back, he can come back right away, and you don't have to worry about him missing camp. Honestly, he doesn't need it because he's been in the system for that long. He's the best at what he does, so there's no reason for him to really even have camp other than getting in conditioning. But other than that, Wentz really is going to miss this time, and that's what stinks about it. But nevertheless, I'm kind of calming down. I still hate thinking about it all the time that we're in this situation, but best case scenario, what it's sounding like, and if things go haywire, like you said, Nelson being out for a game or two is not the worst thing in the world. Chris Reed being in is serviceable, and we'll have to see how Eason does. All things considered, didn't necessarily have a great day today. We can kind of hop into what everything happened today. So Nyheim Hines, first note, was back today, was actually practicing today in pads for the first time. However, two other players that were not practicing today that weren't originally on it, Danny Pinter has an illness. They said it's not COVID related. They said it was just something else. So he might miss a day or two. And then Jordan Glasgow with a back injury. Other than that, things looking okay. And, most of our secondary is back now, which is great. Half our secondary being on the COVID list to start this thing out. TJ Carey came back today, so that's great. Xavier Rhodes hopefully will be back at some point soon as well. But nevertheless, first thing that happened today, this is what happens when your number one and your number two center aren't in to take snaps. And Jacob Eason and Joey Hunt's first 3 snaps failed miserably. 3 fumbles to start out the 11-on-11 drills. And that is not a good start here, man, to have that happen.
Yeah, not a good start at all. It's kind of expected as well. But it is unfortunate, but hopefully these things will, boost the confidence and morale going into the preseason, which is going to be very big for the Colts because it really shows you where the talent currently stands before the season starts, especially when you're missing your top talent. So hopefully this fumble thing can get over. And, to look on the bright side, man, hey, that pressure that's going to be putting on the offense from the defensive side of the Colts is definitely a good thing to see. But, yeah, that fumble thing is kind of unfortunate. Hopefully they get rid of that because I do not want to see that.
Yeah, Joey Hunt being forced into that situation kind of does suck. He doesn't do that very often, and I'm sure it was – getting the rhythm down of everything because, not very often you have your first and second team center go down like that. So, and thankfully, neither one of them will miss very significant time. So they'll both be back, which is great because, this offensive line so far through the first week of training camp has been getting dominated by the defensive line so far for Indianapolis. And that's been the big story throughout all of this. DeForest Buckner, apparently today, DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart just feasting on the inside with Ryan Kelly not being in there and Quentin Nelson not being there either. We've seen the clip of Grover Stewart jumping up and getting the interception. That was quite crazy to see. I never thought I would hear those words, Grover Stewart and interception, but here we are. And, and so far, with Kemoko Turay and Ben Banigou and Kwity Paye all have been getting very favorable results. Kwity Paye, from my knowledge, has been dominating Sam Tevi every day. Kemoko Turay has been giving Braden Smith all he can handle. And, Ben Banigou with a few potential sacks in there as well. So, outside of our offensive line concerns, it must be great to see these defensive linemen, even against second or third team guys, still getting this pressure and putting that kind of pressure on this offense right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said this on social media. I said that the Colts defense is going to be the reason we win games, and I'm fine with that. And the fact that even though they're out there going against second and third strings, the repetition and the pace that they're going at right now, going into the preseason and regular season will definitely help them and give them that confidence. It's like, you know what, I'm doing against my guys. I'm going to do the same thing against this other team that may not know about me. So, the Kwity Paye out there going good. The Ben Banigou out the world, they saying he probably had the most sacks out of everybody in his whole training camp session. That's a good thing to look for. Kemoko Turay, like I said, he's looking like his normal form. That's what a lot of Colts fans were looking for as well. the potential of Kamoko Ture. Can he bounce back from those injuries? He's looking good, like I said. But, the defensive pressure was one of the things we were really missing last year. And the fact that they're showing that right now in training camp is giving you a little bit of hope and faith for the Colts next year, because we're really going to need that going into the regular season. And I'm living. I'm loving this. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see even guys like Ben Banigou, coming out into training camp and having the training camp that he's having. That's what we were concerned about. I mean, not necessarily of what we thought he could do, but it was the effort that he put into going out there in practices and doing what needed to be done. And so far through training camp, I mean, I think they've said that so far Ben Banigou's been the best defensive end that we've had so far. I mean, kind of reminds you of Tyquan Lewis last year, and we saw, what Tyquan Lewis ended up doing in 2020. So all good things there from the defensive line. Nothing really from the linebackers today. The really only thing we saw from the secondary standpoint was TJ Carey knocking a ball free from Michael Pittman. The fumbles on the receiver side today was very, very bad. They had a bunch of those. Is that more concerning for you for the wide receivers that they're fumbling so often right now? Or do you think it's more of just great defensive play and trying to force those turnovers a little more?
I think it's 50-50, but I think I'm going to split it even more down the middle. I think I'm just going to be completely honest. I think the defense has more to do with the fumbles than the actual players. And that's just being straight. When you just look at the training camp in general from day 1 to 6, the defense has been on fire pretty much every day. Mm-hmm. So, and then when you look at the other plays, you'll hear about Michael Pittman Jr. getting a touchdown or Pascal getting a touchdown. And so I think most of this is from the defense in general. I don't think the offense is really, bound for like fumble prone. So I think the talent is from the defensive side for sure.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that. I mean, it sounds like the defense has been really amping up the pressure that they're putting on these guys. So it's really good to see that. And it's good for those young wide receivers to be able to learn how to deal with that. I want to backtrack to Kwity Paye here real quick. I've been saying how, he's been dominating Sam Tevi all week. Apparently, like when it comes to his coachability and what the coaches have been saying about him, says that Kwity has been practicing this like a veteran, like he's been in the league for quite a few years already. Says his coachability is off the charts, and they are just shocked, honestly, at how well he has progressed so early in this going forward. I mean, I know he hasn't really faced any elite left tackles yet, so that's kind of maybe doing something with it, but how encouraging is it? Because we knew Kwity Paye had the intangibles, but we just thought he needed some time to get with it. How important or how great is it to see that Kwity Paye is already doing this in training camp in week 1, and we got so much time left to still go?
It's super important. When you look at a guy like Kwity Paye and you see where he was selected in the draft, he knows what's at stake here and what he has to do when he comes to this team. We drafted Kwity Paye early for a reason, because we needed speed off that edge. And now that Kwity Paye, he got his solidified role, he knows what's at stake. So when it's coming down to it with the coaching and everything and the strategy, he's going to be a good listener because he knows what we got to do. So that's his objective. And the fact that you're hearing these things, these good reviews coming out of the locker room and the coaching staff about Kwity Paye is really good. It's a really good sight. Like I said, everything positive notes coming out of Indy from the pass rushing perspective and all these things is a good thing to see going into next season. It just makes you forget about all the bad things that are currently happening.
All right, well, let's take a look here at the offense, and I'll have you give them a grade from overall today. So obviously we know about the 3 fumbles to start the practice off. We know of the 1 interception that Eason threw to Grover Stewart. We know of the 1 forced fumble that TJ Carey put on Michael Pittman. But then we also look at everything else in consideration. Eason threw 50% completion percentage today, 2 touchdowns to Zach Pascal. Great to see Zach Pascal getting some reps in there as well. And then Sam Ehlinger with a legit 2-minute drive to end the 11-on-11s, ending in a touchdown to Farrag Green. So that's really great to see Sam Ehlinger leading the offense and being able to move on that. Overall, what would you grade the offense for today?
For the grade, I'll give it a C+. I only give it a C+ due to the fumbles. But when you look at it, it's an average offense. You got two guys coming in to try to fill this role to be a starting quarterback. That's things you love to see. If you take away the fumbles, I give it a B. I give it a B or an A. But when you look at it overall, I'll give it a C+ because, the potential is there. It's an average offense. We don't have the best stocked offensive line right now in the training camp. So I'm pretty sure if everyone was healthy, the numbers or the reviews of what could have happened in those 11-on-11s would have been way better. But I've liked the production, and 50% from Ehlinger, and not 50%, 50% from Eason, and Ehlinger leading the 2-minute drill is definitely a good thing to see.
Yeah, it's good to see a couple of these guys stepping in, and I guess I'll end it with this one. I mean, how long do you give Jacob Eason before you start to wonder how he's actually progressing? Because it's 6 days. We're not going to get, it's realistically only 3 days because Eason's only been in charge for 3 days now. And, we're going to have a few preseason games that are going to come in. He's going to get some real game time action. How long before you start to say, okay, I'm starting to see a little bit now of what Eason is, whether that be good or bad? When do we decide, maybe we have to reconsider, or we just keep going with him?
After week 1, we play the Seattle Seahawks, and you're throwing him into the fire. Now, when you look at the Seattle Seahawks team, their defense is pretty much a big question mark because they could be either really good or really bad. And they really drafted but they signed some talent in the offseason on the pass rush. So it's going to be sneaky good. And then when you throw them into that fire, the offense is definitely going to have to air it out. It's going to be offense versus offense because we know what the defense is going to do. If Jacob Eason can game manage against the Seattle Seahawks, that'll give you a real view of what he can potentially do if he has to start longer than 3 weeks. I'll give it week 1.
Right, absolutely. All right, well, yep, I guess that's going to do it for this one, guys. Basically what we can take away so far with training camp is, all these injuries. It gives a couple other guys some chances to get some reps with the first team and second team. It's next man up. I hate to say that because, I'm sitting here still fuming from the news of Quentin Nelson at this point, and I'm still just trying to hold it in. But at the same time, I'm trying to tell myself it is next man up. You can't make excuses. Every team's going to have injuries at some point. Might as well have ours start out early rather than late. We'll just have to roll with the punches. But Marcus, thank you so much for joining me and talking training camp.
Oh, man, no problem. Appreciate the invite, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let us know what you thought of training camp day 6. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.